7 seconds. That's all it takes for their eyes to lock onto you, sizing you up, deciding if you're someone worth respecting or just another face in the crowd. I've been there, standing in a room, heart pounding, feeling the weight of their gaze like a silent guillotine. One wrong move, one flicker of doubt, and you're dismissed. Invisible. Forgettable. Have you ever felt it? That moment where everything hangs in the balance, where you're not just being seen, but judged. I used to crumble under that pressure, desperate to please, to fit in, to be liked. But then I discovered Niccolò Machiavelli, a man who saw the world for what it is, a battlefield of impressions where respect is won or lost in the blink of an eye. I'm not here to sugarcoat things or promise you a quick fix. This is a raw, unfiltered journey through the lessons I learned from a 16th century philosopher who understood power better than anyone. In just 7 seconds, you can transform how the world sees you, not by pretending, but by commanding. Today, I'm sharing 3 strategies that changed my life, strategies Machiavelli would have nodded at with a sly grin. They're not easy. They'll demand you face your fears, your flaws, your need for approval. But if you're ready to stop being overlooked and start being unforgettable, let's begin. I was 27 when I first read The Prince. My life was a mess, stuck in a dead-end job, ignored in meetings, and constantly second-guessing myself in conversations. I felt like I was shouting into a void, but no one was listening. That's when I stumbled across Niccolò Machiavelli, a name that sounded like a whisper from a darker, wiser world. He wasn't a motivational guru with a flashy smile or a self-help coach promising happiness. He was a strategist, a realist who looked at humanity with ruthless clarity and said, "This is how the world works. Deal with it." Machiavelli lived in a time of betrayal, war, and political intrigue, where one wrong move could cost you your life. He saw that people don't judge you based on your intentions or your heart. They judge you on what they see in the moment. In 7 seconds, their minds form a verdict. Are you strong? Are you worth respecting? Or are you just another pawn in their game? He called this the art of power, a psychological chess match where every gesture, every word, every glance is a move. And the stakes? Your influence, your dignity, your place in the world. What hit me hardest was how relevant his ideas were to my life. I realized I'd been playing the game wrong, slouching, stammering, trying to please everyone. I was handing my power away before I even opened my mouth. Machiavelli taught me that respect isn't given, it's earned, and it starts in those first 7 seconds. He didn't care about being liked. He cared about being seen. And that's what this video is about. How to make those 7 seconds count. How to walk into any room and own it. Not because you're the loudest, but because you're the most undeniable. The weight of 7 seconds. I'll never forget the day I realized how much those 7 seconds mattered. It was a company meeting, one of those high-stakes gatherings where the big bosses were watching. I'd prepared for weeks, memorizing my pitch, polishing every slide. But when I walked into that room, something went wrong. My shoulders were hunched, my voice cracked, and I couldn't hold eye contact. I saw their faces, bored, distracted, already writing me off. In 7 seconds, before I'd even said a word, they'd decided I wasn't worth listening to. My pitch fell flat. My ideas were ignored. I left that room feeling like I'd been punched in the gut, humiliated, invisible. Machiavelli would have seen it coming. He knew that humans are brutal judges, sizing you up based on signals you don't even realize you're sending. Your posture, your tone, the way you hesitate, they're all clues, and in 7 seconds, people piece them together into a story about who you are. If that story says weak or unsure, you're done. Respect slips through your fingers, and you're left scrambling to prove yourself, already one step behind. Why we fail? I spent years failing at first impressions, and it wasn't because I didn't try. It was because I didn't understand the game. I thought respect came from being nice, from working hard, from saying the right things. But Machiavelli would have laughed at that. He'd say I was playing chess with my eyes closed. The world doesn't care about your intentions. It cares about your presence. And presence isn't about what you say. It's about what you project. The problem starts with how we're wired. We crave approval, validation, the nod that says we're enough. So we overtry, smiling too much, talking too fast, filling every silence with nervous chatter. Or we shrink, avoiding eye contact, mumbling, hoping to blend in. Both are traps. Overtrying makes you look desperate. Shrinking makes you look weak. Either way, in those 7 seconds, you're handing your power to the room, letting them decide your worth. I saw it everywhere once I started paying attention. At networking events, I'd watch people fumble their introductions, their voices shaking as they tried to impress. In meetings, colleagues would slouch, their ideas ignored because they didn't look like leaders. Even in social settings, friends would fade into the background, overshadowed by someone bolder, someone who knew how to command attention. It wasn't about talent or intelligence. It was about those first 7 seconds. The cost of being overlooked. The consequences hit me hard. That meeting wasn't just a bad day. It was a wake-up call. I didn't get the promotion I'd been gunning for. My boss later told me I didn't seem ready for leadership. Not ready? I'd worked harder than anyone, stayed late, delivered results. But none of it mattered because I'd failed to make them see it. In 7 seconds, I'd been judged and discarded. It wasn't just work. In my personal life, I struggled to be taken seriously. Friends would interrupt me mid-sentence. Dates would lose interest before I could show who I was. I felt like I was shouting into a void, my voice drowned out by people who seemed to effortlessly command respect. I started to wonder if there was something wrong with me, some flaw I couldn't fix. Machiavelli would have called it a failure of strategy. He believed that respect is a currency, and if you don't earn it up front, you're begging for scraps later. A weak first impression doesn't just cost you a moment. It costs you opportunities, relationships, your sense of self. It's a psychological guillotine, cutting you off from the power you could have had. And the worst part? Most of us don't even realize we're doing it wrong. Strategy 1. Project an aura of authority. The first lesson Machiavelli taught me was that power starts with perception. People don't see who you are, they see what you show them. And in 7 seconds, your body is your loudest voice. I learned this the hard way after that disastrous meeting. I was determined not to let it happen again. So I started studying how people who commanded respect carried themselves. I noticed the way my CEO stood, shoulders back, head high, eyes steady. The way a charismatic friend held eye contact, never flinching. They weren't louder or smarter. They just looked like they belonged. Machiavelli would have approved. He wrote that a prince must appear strong, even when he feels weak, because the world judges the surface first. Your posture, your gaze, your voice, they're your armor, your weapons. So I practiced. I stood in front of a mirror, forcing my shoulders back, lifting my chin. I recorded myself speaking, slowing my words, letting my voice drop. I walked into rooms like I owned them, even when my stomach was in knots. It felt fake at first, like I was acting. But then something shifted. I'll never forget the first time it worked. I had a pitch meeting with a new client, a tough one who'd chewed up my colleagues. I walked in, shoulders square, eyes locked on his. I shook his hand firmly, spoke clearly, and held my ground. In 7 seconds, I saw it. His posture softened, his eyes widened slightly. He was listening. The meeting went better than I'd hoped, and later, he told my boss I was a natural leader. Me? The guy who'd been invisible just months before? That's when I realized, authority isn't something you have, it's something you project. Here's how you can do it. Stand tall, like a king claiming his throne. Make eye contact, not aggressively, but with quiet confidence. Speak slowly, letting each word land. Practice in small moments, ordering coffee, greeting a colleague. It's not about being loud, it's about being undeniable. Machiavelli would say your body is your first weapon, wield it like a prince. Strategy 2. Master the power of silence. The second strategy was harder for me, but it's where I saw the biggest change. I used to talk too much, especially when I was nervous. I'd ramble, fill silences, try to prove I was smart or likable. It was like I was begging for approval, and people could smell it. Machiavelli would have called it weakness. He knew that power lies in control, and nothing shows control like silence. I learned this at a networking event that could have been a disaster. I was surrounded by big names, people way out of my league. My instinct was to jump in, make a joke, say something clever. But I remembered Machiavelli's advice. A prince doesn't chase attention, he commands it. So I did something radical. I shut up. I stood there, glass in hand, smiling lightly, letting the conversation flow around me. When someone asked me a question, I paused for 3 seconds, looked them in the eye, and answered briefly. The room noticed. People leaned in, curious, waiting for me to speak. In 7 seconds, I'd gone from nervous nobody to someone they wanted to know. Silence is a throne. It's not about being cold or aloof. It's about showing you don't need to fill the space. People fear silence, so they rush to fill it, giving you the upper hand. I started using this everywhere. In meetings, I'd pause before responding, letting my words carry weight. On dates, I'd listen more, letting the other person reveal themselves. Even in arguments, a moment of silence could shift the dynamic, making me the one in control. Try this. Next time you meet someone new, don't rush to speak. Pause for 3 seconds, hold their gaze, and let the moment breathe. Smile if it feels right, but don't force it. You'll be amazed how people respond. They'll lean in, eager for what you'll say next. Machiavelli knew that silence isn't empty, it's power. Strategy 3. Show uncompromising value. The third strategy is where I found my backbone. Machiavelli believed that respect comes from those who set boundaries, who show they value themselves too much to be pushed around. I used to be a people pleaser, saying yes to everything, afraid to rock the boat. I thought it made me likable, but it just made me a doormat. People walked over me because I let them. The turning point came during a project at work. A colleague asked me to take on extra tasks that weren't my job, that would have buried me in stress. My instinct was to agree, to be the team player. But I remembered Machiavelli's words. A prince doesn't beg for respect, he demands it. So I said no. Politely, firmly, with a smile. I'm focused on my priorities, but let me know how I can support you another way. His jaw dropped. He didn't argue. Instead, he started treating me differently. Less like a subordinate, more like an equal. In 7 seconds, I'd rewritten how he saw me. Showing value isn't about being rude or selfish. It's about knowing your worth and refusing to compromise it. It's the small acts that matter. Saying no to a request that doesn't serve you. Asking a sharp question that shows you're not just nodding along. Walking away from a conversation that disrespects you. These moments signal that you're not a pawn, you're a player. Here's how to start. Identify one area where you're giving too much time, energy, agreement. Next time it comes up, set a boundary. Say no, calmly but firmly. Or challenge someone's assumption with a question that makes them think. It's scary at first, I won't lie. But every time you do it, you build a reputation as someone who can't be ignored. Machiavelli would say your no is your scepter. Use it to rule. Let me be real with you. This path isn't for the faint-hearted. Choosing to command respect, to own those 7 seconds, will make you enemies. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something right. Society doesn't like people who stand out, who refuse to bow to the unspoken rules of blending in. I learned this the hard way. After I started applying Machiavelli's strategies, things changed. People noticed me, bosses, colleagues, even strangers. But not everyone was happy about it. A coworker once called me arrogant because I stopped laughing at his lazy jokes and started speaking up in meetings. Friends said I was too serious when I set boundaries instead of going along with their plans. Even my family noticed, asking why I was acting different. It stung. I wondered if I was becoming someone I didn't like, someone cold or unapproachable. But then I realized their pushback wasn't about me. It was about them. Machiavelli knew this. He said that power makes people uncomfortable because it holds a mirror to their own insecurities. When you command respect, you force others to confront their own lack of it. They'll call you arrogant, intimidating, or selfish, not because you are, but because you're no longer playing their game. You're no longer a pawn they can move around. Society is a ruthless arena. It rewards those who conform, who keep their heads down, who beg for approval. But Machiavelli saw through that. He knew that respect isn't a gift, it's a conquest. If you don't claim it in those first 7 seconds, you're left scrambling, fighting an uphill battle to be seen. And the cost? You become a follower, a shadow, someone who's easily dismissed. I've been that person, and it's a kind of death, a slow erosion of who you could be. The warning is clear. If you don't master those 7 seconds, you're handing your power to others. They'll decide your worth, your role, your place. And once you're labeled as less than, it's a fight to claw your way back. But if you dare to stand tall, to project authority, to wield silence and value like weapons, you'll face resistance. People will test you, criticize you, try to pull you back into the crowd. That's the price of power. The question is, are you willing to pay it? I won't lie to you. Mastering those 7 seconds didn't make my life perfect. I still face judgment, doubt, moments where I want to shrink. But I'm not the same person I was, the one who walked out of that meeting feeling invisible. I've learned to walk into any room and own it, not because I'm the loudest or the smartest, but because I've become undeniable. Machiavelli didn't teach me to be liked. He taught me to be respected, to be the kind of person who shifts the air when they enter. The moment it all clicked was at a conference last year. I was speaking on a panel, surrounded by experts with decades more experience. My old self would have crumbled, stammering through my answers, desperate to impress. But I wasn't that person anymore. I walked onto that stage, shoulders back, eyes steady. I paused before speaking, letting the silence draw every eye. When I answered questions, I spoke clearly, refusing to rush, setting boundaries when a moderator tried to cut me off. In 7 seconds, I saw it. The audience leaned forward, the other panelists nodded, the room was mine. Afterward, people approached me, not just to network, but to learn from me. For the first time, I felt what Machiavelli meant by power, not control over others, but control over how you're seen. This is the vision I want for you. Imagine walking into any room, a job interview, a date, a family gathering, and knowing that in 7 seconds, you've claimed respect. Not because you forced it, but because you are it. You're not chasing approval or hiding from judgment. You're standing tall, a prince in your own right, shaping the story others tell about you. It's not about being perfect, it's about being powerful. Machiavelli's strategies, projecting authority, mastering silence, showing uncompromising value, aren't just tricks. They're a rebellion against a world that wants you small, compliant, forgettable. They're a way to choose yourself, to become the architect of your own respect. Most people won't do it. They'll settle for mediocrity, for the safety of being liked. But you? You're here because you want more. You want to be seen, not as you are, but as you could be. This journey isn't just mine, it's yours now. Those 7 seconds are waiting for you, every day, in every room you enter. So try it. Stand taller tomorrow. Hold silence for 3 seconds longer than feels comfortable. Say no to something that doesn't serve you. See what happens. And if this video lit a spark, if it made you see yourself differently, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to command respect, someone who's been overlooked too long. Subscribe for more strategies to own your life, to turn those 7 seconds into a legacy. This isn't just a video, it's a mission to empower, to wake up a world that's sleepwalking through its own power. Let's do this together, one powerful impression at a time.